They called him Heartless for leaving his family. Now I'm the woman he built a better life with. I'm restoring a 200-year-old book right now. It's a collection of poetry, pages so brittle they crumble if I breathe too hard. The spine is completely destroyed, the binding thread rotted through. Most people would call it trash. That's kind of how this town sees my husband. My name's irrelevant for this story, but what matters is this: I'm a bookbinder. I work with things people have given up on. I rebuild what others think is broken beyond repair. And 3 years ago, I met a man everyone had already written off. Victor Hale. Even now, when I say his name at the post office or the grocery store, I can feel the temperature drop. People get quiet. They glance at each other with those knowing looks, the ones that say poor thing, married to him. They think I don't notice. I notice everything. We live in a stone house at the edge of the lake. It's the kind of place that looks cold from the outside, gray stone, tall windows, isolated. Victor bought it the day he moved here. People thought that was weird too. Why would a man who abandoned his family want to live in such a lonely place? Except it's not lonely. Not to us. This morning, I'm in my studio working on the poetry book while Victor is down by the water. He's a hydrologist, studies lake ecosystems, water quality, that kind of thing. He spends hours taking samples, recording data, completely absorbed. People see him crouched by the shoreline with his equipment and they whisper. Always whispering. I hear them at the farmer's market. At the library. At the coffee shop where I sometimes work if a client needs to drop off a damaged book. That's her. The one who married him. Can you imagine? Living with a man who abandoned his own family? Cold as the lake he stares at all day. They don't say it to my face. They're not that brave. But they want me to hear. They want me to know they're judging. They want me to feel sorry for myself. I don't. What I see every morning is a man who makes coffee exactly the way I like it without asking. A man who reads by the fireplace with our cat curled up on his lap. A man who fixes things around the house with quiet precision, never complaining, never needing credit. What they see is a ghost story they've been telling themselves for 3 years. I met Victor at the bookstore in town. It's the only decent one for 50 miles, crammed between a hardware store and a tax office. I was carrying a stack of old novels I'd bought from an estate sale, research for binding techniques, and naturally, I tripped on the rug near the register. Books went everywhere. I was on my knees, embarrassed, scrambling to pick them up when I saw a pair of hands helping. Steady hands. Careful with the spines, even the damaged ones. I looked up and there he was. Tall. Composed. Tired eyes, but kind. The kind of tired that comes from surviving something, not from being lazy. You all right? His voice was quiet. Calm. Yeah, just clumsy, I said, laughing it off. He handed me the books he'd gathered. Our fingers brushed. It wasn't some movie moment where time stopped or whatever. It was just a touch. But something about the way he handled those broken books, like they still mattered, made me want to know more. We started dating 2 months later. He never talked about his past. I never pushed. The whole town had already decided who he was, and honestly, I didn't care what they thought. But there was one question I couldn't ignore forever. One question everyone was too afraid to ask him directly, so they just whispered their assumptions instead. 6 months into dating, I finally asked it. We were having dinner at the house. The lake outside the window was still, reflecting the sunset. Victor was quiet that night, quieter than usual. I watched him stare out at the water, and I knew if I didn't ask now, I never would. Did you really abandon your family? The silence that followed felt like the whole world holding its breath. And then Victor said 5 words that changed everything I thought I knew about the man sitting across from me. My brother got my wife pregnant. I remember exactly how the fork felt in my hand when he said it. The weight of it. The way my fingers just froze. Your brother got your wife pregnant. I repeated the words in my head like I was trying to translate a foreign language. They didn't make sense. Not because I didn't understand them, but because I couldn't reconcile them with the man sitting across from me. The man who'd just made me laugh 20 minutes earlier. The man who'd insisted on cooking even though I'd offered. Victor didn't look at me. He kept staring out at the lake, his face completely neutral. Not angry. Not sad. Just still. I don't understand, I said quietly. Her name was Iris, he said. We were married for 5 years. My brother's name is Owen. Younger than me by 3 years. Always was reckless. Always in my shadow, or at least that's what my mother used to say. He picked up his water glass, took a sip, set it down with the same careful precision he did everything. The affair lasted 8 months before I found out. The pregnancy is what revealed it. She was 12 weeks along when she told me. My stomach dropped. Victor, the family knew. His voice didn't change. Still calm. Still measured. My mother knew. My father knew. Owen's friends knew. Everyone knew except me. I set down my fork. I couldn't eat. Couldn't even pretend to. When the pregnancy came out, they all sat me down. My whole family. Like an intervention. He finally looked at me then, and his eyes were so tired. They begged me to forgive them. To keep the family together. My mother cried. She said families survive things like this. That I was being selfish by even considering leaving. Selfish, I repeated, and I heard the anger in my own voice even if Victor's had none. Owen didn't apologize. He just made excuses. Said it happened because Iris and I weren't connecting anymore. Said I worked too much. Said I wasn't paying attention. Victor paused. He was probably right about that last part. I didn't pay attention. I trusted them. The way he said trusted, past tense, final, made my chest hurt. What did Iris say? She wanted me to raise the child as mine. He said it like he was reading a grocery list. She said we could move past it. That Owen was young and stupid and didn't mean anything. That she loved me, not him. I wanted to throw something. I wanted to scream. But Victor just sat there, completely composed, like he was describing someone else's life. What did you do? I filed for divorce. Took what was legally mine. I'd built a consulting firm, environmental analysis. It was doing well. I sold my half to a neutral party, made sure the financials were clean. Then I left. Just like that? Just like that. He met my eyes. No yelling. No public scenes. No revenge. I just left. The simplicity of it hit me harder than any dramatic story would have. He didn't fight. Didn't try to win. Didn't burn it all down. He just walked away. Don't you hate them? I asked. I needed to know. Victor was quiet for a long moment. Then he said something I've never forgotten. Hate requires caring. I just don't care anymore. And I believed him. Not because he sounded cold, but because he sounded free. We sat there in silence. The sun had set completely. The lake outside was dark now, just the outline of the shore visible against the sky. I realized in that moment I was falling for a man the entire world had completely misunderstood. They called him heartless. They called him cruel. They called him a man who abandoned his family. They were all wrong. He was just a man who refused to stay where he wasn't respected. I reached across the table and took his hand. He looked surprised, genuinely surprised, like kindness after honesty wasn't something he expected. Thank you for telling me, I said. He squeezed my hand once. Gentle. Deliberate. What I didn't know then, what I wouldn't find out until 1 week before our wedding, was that there was more to the story. Something Victor hadn't told me that night. Something that would make me understand exactly why he never, ever looked back. That conversation was 2 years ago. We got married 4 months later. And ever since, I've had to watch this town treat my husband like he's some kind of monster. Yesterday, I went to the bakery on Main Street. The owner, Phyllis, has run it for 30 years. She makes the best sourdough in the county and she knows it. I've been buying bread there every week since I moved here. I walked in, and Phyllis was behind the counter helping another customer. She saw me, her smile faltered for just a second, then she turned back to the woman she was serving. That'll be $12.50, hon. I waited. 5 minutes. Then 10. Phyllis kept herself busy, rearranging pastries, wiping down the counter, checking her phone. The door chimed as 2 more people came in. She served them both. I stood there the entire time. Finally, she looked at me. What do you need? Not how can I help you? Not what can I get you today? Just what do you need? Like I was an inconvenience. 2 loaves of sourdough, I said, keeping my voice level. She wrapped them in paper without a word. Took my money. Didn't make eye contact. As I left, I heard her say to the next customer, some people just don't have standards anymore. I wanted to turn around. I wanted to slam those loaves on her counter and tell her exactly what kind of man Victor is. But I didn't. Because that's not what Victor would do. Victor would just leave. Find another bakery. Move on, so that's what I did. But God, it's exhausting. Last month at the farmer's market, a woman I barely know, Sherry something, sells organic honey, came up to me while I was buying tomatoes. She touched my arm with this pitying expression that made my skin crawl. Sweetie, she said, voice dripping with false concern. You deserve better than a man like that. I stared at her. Excuse me? I just mean. You seem like such a nice girl. You could have anyone. Why settle for someone who? Well, you know. I pulled my arm back. No. I don't know. She leaned in like she was sharing a secret. A man who abandons his own family isn't capable of real love. You should think about that. I left without the tomatoes. Went home and found Victor in his study, reviewing lake samples under a microscope. He looked up when I came in, saw my face, and immediately got up. What happened? Nothing, I lied. Just people being people. He studied me for a moment, then pulled me into a hug. Didn't say anything. Just held me. And that's when I realized something. Victor already knows what this town thinks. He's known for 3 years. He just doesn't let it touch him anymore. I'm still learning how to do that. The thing is, the story this town tells isn't even true. I found that out by accident 6 months after Victor and I started dating. I was at a coffee shop working on a restoration project when a man approached my table. Mid-50s, professional looking, kind eyes. You're with Victor Hale, aren't you? He said. I tensed immediately. Who's asking? Dennis Kwan. I used to work with him. At the firm. The firm. The environmental consulting company Victor built. Dennis sat down without being invited, but something about his expression made me let him. He wasn't here to judge. He looked sad. I need you to know something, he said. Victor didn't abandon anything. He built that company from absolutely nothing. 12-hour days for years. When he divorced Iris, he sold his half legally, cleanly. Made sure everything was fair. I know, I said. Do you know what happened after he left? I didn't. Owen tried to run it. Victor's brother. Thought he could just step into Victor's shoes. Dennis shook his head. The company collapsed within a year. Owen had no idea what he was doing. 40 employees lost their jobs. And you know what Owen told everyone? That Victor abandoned the company. That Victor left them all high and dry. My hands clenched around my coffee cup. But Victor was already gone. Exactly. He left months before the collapse. Owen's incompetence destroyed that business, but it was easier to blame the ghost than admit the truth. Dennis stood up. Your husband is a good man. This town doesn't deserve to know that, but you should. He left before I could respond. I never told Victor about that conversation. I didn't need to. I already knew who he was. But today, I finally hit my limit. I was at the library returning some research books when I overheard 2 women talking in the next aisle. They didn't know I was there. Imagine leaving your own child, one of them said. What kind of man does that? My vision went red. I wanted to scream. I wanted to tell them the child wasn't even his. That his brother was the father. That Victor walked away from betrayal, not responsibility. But I didn't. I checked out my books and left. That night, Victor and I were sitting by the lake. The sun was setting, turning the water gold. He was reading. I was pretending to read. Finally, I couldn't hold it in anymore. Don't you want them to know the truth? Victor looked up from his book. What truth? About Owen. About Iris. About what really happened. Don't you want them to know you're not the villain they think you are? He was quiet for a long moment. Then he closed his book and looked at me with those tired, kind eyes. The truth is for people who deserve it, he said. They don't. And just like that, I understood exactly why Victor Hale will never defend himself to people who've already decided who he is. I need to take you back. 1 week before Victor and I got married. We were at the house, finalizing details. Flowers, seating charts, all the things that felt absurdly trivial compared to the fact that I was marrying the most misunderstood man I'd ever met. My best friend Rue showed up unannounced. She's a wildlife biologist, works with migratory bird patterns, spends half her time in wetlands with binoculars. We've known each other since college. She's blunt in a way most people find off-putting. I find it refreshing. She found me in the kitchen making coffee. We need to talk, she said. I knew that tone. About what? About Victor. She sat down at the table, her expression serious. Are you sure you know everything about him? I felt defensive immediately. Yes. Everything? She leaned forward. Because this town has a lot of stories, and you're about to legally tie yourself to a man with a past you might not fully understand. I know about Owen. I know about Iris. I know he left. My voice was sharper than I intended. Do you know why he really left? The actual reason, not just the affair? I hesitated. And Rue saw it. Talk to him, she said. Before the wedding. Make sure there's nothing you're going to regret not asking. She left after that. And her words sat in my chest like a stone. That night, I found Victor in his study. He was reviewing water quality reports, completely absorbed. I stood in the doorway for a full minute before he noticed me. Hey, he said, smiling. You okay? I need to ask you something. The smile faded. He set down his pen. All right. I sat across from him. Rue came by today. She said I should make sure I know everything before we get married. And I realized. I know what happened, but I don't know how you found out. How did you discover the affair? Victor's jaw tightened. It was the first time I'd ever seen him react physically to the memory. You don't need to. I do, I interrupted. If we're doing this, I need to know. He was quiet for a long time. Then he pulled out his phone, scrolled through old messages, and handed it to me. I never deleted it, he said. I don't know why. The message was from 3 years ago. From Owen to Iris. Except it had been sent to Victor's number instead. He deserves to know he's raising my kid. I stared at the screen. Read it again. And again. Owen meant for you to see this, I said slowly. Yes. He wanted you to know. He wanted to hurt you. Victor took the phone back. Owen always resented me. I was the responsible one. The successful one. The one my parents were proud of. He wanted to destroy that. And the easiest way to do it was through Iris. My hands were shaking. What did you do when you got this? Nothing. Nothing? I didn't confront them. Didn't scream. Didn't break anything. His voice was eerily calm. I called a lawyer. Documented everything. Filed for divorce. Sold my half of the company to a third party so Owen couldn't touch it. And I left. Your family must have. My mother's last words to me were, you are heartless, just like your father. That stopped me cold. Your father? Victor nodded. He left too. Different situation, but similar outcome. My mother's sister had an affair with him. When it came out, the family expected him to stay quiet. To keep the peace. He refused. Divorced my mother, walked away. I was 10. So you learned it from him. I learned that dignity matters more than other people's comfort. Victor met my eyes. My father taught me that walking away isn't weakness. It's knowing when you're in a place that doesn't value you. I felt something shift in my chest. Understanding. Deep, bone-level understanding. Why didn't you ever defend yourself? Tell people what really happened? Victor's answer was simple and devastating. Explaining yourself to people who've already decided who you are is a waste of breath. I sat there, looking at the man I was about to marry. The man this town called Heartless. Cold. Cruel. They were so wrong it was almost funny. This wasn't a man running from something. This was a man who had survived something and chosen peace over proving he was right. That night, after Victor went to bed, I made a private vow. I would be the one person who truly saw Victor Hale. Not the ghost story. Not the villain. Just the man. The real one. The one who deserved to be seen clearly. This morning, I watched Victor rescue a bird from the lake. It was a merganser, some kind of duck with a ridiculous crest on its head. It had fishing line wrapped around one leg, tangled so badly it couldn't dive properly. Victor spotted it from the deck while having his coffee. He didn't say anything. Just set down his mug, walked to the shed, grabbed his waders and a net. I followed him down to the shore. The water was freezing, early spring, ice barely melted. Victor waded in waist deep, moving slowly so he wouldn't spook the bird. It took him 20 minutes to get close enough. When he finally caught it, he held it so gently, talking to it in that quiet voice of his while he cut away the line. You're all right. You're okay now. He released it back into the water. The bird dove immediately, came up 10 feet away, and flew off like nothing had happened. Victor waded back to shore, soaking wet, and just smiled. Coffee's probably cold, he said. That's who Victor is. The town doesn't see that. They don't see him volunteer at the Youth Science Center every Saturday, teaching kids about water ecosystems. They don't know he refuses to take payment for it. They don't know the kids light up when he walks in. They don't see any of it because they've already decided who he is. 3 weeks ago, our neighbor, Theodore, 82 years old, lives alone, had his dock collapse. The wood was rotted through, 30 years of weather damage. Theodore was devastated. That dock was the last project he'd built with his late wife. Victor heard about it and just showed up at Theodore's house the next morning with lumber and tools. I'll help you rebuild it, he said. Theodore tried to pay him. Victor refused. Spent 3 weekends out there, measuring, cutting, hammering. I brought them lunch every day. Theodore told stories about his wife. Victor listened. Actually listened. When it was done, Theodore stood on the new dock with tears in his eyes. "Why are you so kind?" he asked me later, when Victor was loading tools into the truck, "if he's so cold." I didn't answer him. But I thought, because kindness and boundaries can coexist. That's the thing people don't understand. Victor is generous, patient, helpful. But he doesn't let people destroy him. He'll build you a dock. He'll rescue your lost cat. He'll help you carry groceries. But if you betray him, if you lie to him, if you choose to hurt him deliberately, he'll walk away and never look back. That's not cold. That's self-respect. Last month, we were sitting by the lake, seems like all our important conversations happen there, and I asked him something I'd been wondering about for a while. "Do you ever regret leaving?" Victor was quiet for a moment. Then he said something that's been stuck in my head ever since. "I regret marrying someone I didn't truly know. I don't regret leaving someone who didn't truly know me." And that's when I finally understood. Victor didn't lose anything when he left. He shed dead weight. He walked away from people who saw him as a means to an end, as someone to use, as someone who would just take it because family is supposed to forgive anything. He could have stayed. He could have fought. He could have exposed Owen publicly, turned the family against each other, made everyone choose sides. He could have dragged Iris through the mud, told everyone what she did, destroyed her reputation the way she destroyed their marriage. He could have done all of that. Instead, he chose peace. He chose to build a new life where none of that mattered anymore. People think that's weakness. They think real strength looks like fighting back, getting revenge, making sure everyone knows you were wronged. But I've learned something from Victor. Real strength is knowing when to walk away. It's choosing your own peace over proving you're right. It's refusing to let other people's betrayal turn you into someone you're not. Victor didn't need revenge. He just needed to leave. And now he has this. A quiet life by the lake. A wife who sees him clearly. Work he loves. Neighbors he helps. Kids he teaches. Birds he saves. The town thinks he lost everything. They're wrong. I'm in my studio tonight, working on finishing the poetry book. The spine is almost complete. Something that was broken is whole again. My phone buzzes. Unknown number. I almost ignore it, probably spam, but something makes me open it. The message is short. "My name is Penelope. I'm Iris's sister. I know Victor doesn't want to hear from us, but I need to apologize for what I didn't do 3 years ago. I stayed silent when I should have spoken. If he's willing to hear it, I'd like to talk. I understand if the answer is no." I stare at the screen. Penelope. I remember Victor mentioning her once. She was at the family intervention. She didn't say anything, just sat there while everyone begged Victor to forgive. Now she wants to apologize. I look out the window at Victor, down by the lake with his equipment, collecting samples in the fading light. And I have to decide, does he deserve this closure? Or would hearing from his past just reopen wounds that have finally healed? I wait until Victor comes inside. He's carrying his sample case, boots muddy, hair slightly windblown. He looks tired but content. That's his default state, quietly satisfied with simple work, simple days. "Got a message," I say, holding up my phone. He sets down the case, washes his hands at the sink. "Yeah?" "From Penelope. Iris's sister." His hands stop moving. Just for a second. Then he dries them carefully, folds the towel, turns to face me. What does she want? To apologize. For staying silent back then. She says she understands if you don't want to hear it. Victor's expression doesn't change. He walks over, takes my phone, reads the message himself. I watch his eyes move across the screen. Once. Twice. Then he hands it back. "Tell her I appreciate it, but I don't need it." "You don't want to hear what she has to say?" "No." He says it without hesitation. It wouldn't change anything. I look at him, this man who just turned down an apology 3 years in the making, and I finally understand something fundamental. Closure isn't about other people apologizing. It's about not needing the apology in the first place. Victor already has closure. He's had it since the day he walked away. I type back, "Thank you for reaching out." Victor appreciates the thought, but he's moved forward. "I hope you understand." Her response comes 5 minutes later. "I do. Tell him I'm glad he found peace." I don't show Victor the reply. He's already back at the sink, cleaning his equipment, mind already somewhere else. That night, we're on the deck watching the sun set over the lake. Our cat, a scraggly orange thing Victor found half-starved behind the house 2 years ago, is curled up between us. The sky is doing the thing it does here, turning the water into liquid gold. You know what I see when I look at you? I say. Victor glances over. What? A man who knew when to walk away. He's quiet for a moment. Then he reaches over and takes my hand. You know what I see when I look at you? He says. Someone who chose to walk toward me anyway. And there it is. The whole story in 2 sentences. Victor didn't abandon his family. He abandoned betrayal. He's not cold, he's boundaried. He's not heartless, he just stopped giving his heart to people who broke it. The town will probably never know the truth. They'll keep whispering. They'll keep judging. They'll keep telling the story of the heartless man who lives in the stone house by the lake. And you know what? That's fine. Because Victor doesn't need their understanding. He doesn't need their approval. He doesn't need vindication from people who never truly knew him. He has this. Mornings where he rescues birds. Afternoons studying water samples. Evenings teaching kids about ecosystems. Weekends rebuilding neighbors' docks. A wife who sees him clearly. A life built on his own terms. People used to whisper, the man who abandoned his entire family. They were wrong. Victor didn't abandon anything. He simply chose a better life. I think about the poetry book I'm restoring. How everyone thought it was trash. How I saw something worth saving. How careful work and patience can make something whole again. That's not what happened with Victor, though. Victor was never broken. He was just surrounded by people who couldn't see his value. Walking away wasn't about fixing himself. It was about refusing to stay broken down. The sun dips below the horizon. The lake turns dark. Victor's hand is warm in mine. Thank you, he says quietly. For what? For not needing me to be anyone other than who I am. I squeeze his hand. Thank you for being someone worth walking toward. We sit there as the stars come out, one by one, reflected in the still water. No drama. No grand gestures. Just 2 people who found each other and chose to stay. The world thinks Victor lost everything when he left his old life. But I know the truth. He didn't lose anything. He shed what was weighing him down. He walked away from people who saw him as someone to use, to manipulate, to control. And he walked toward something better. A quiet life. Meaningful work. Genuine kindness without exploitation. Peace without apology. Victor Hale didn't need revenge. He didn't need closure from the people who hurt him. He didn't need the world to know his story. He just needed to find someone who sees him clearly. And that person is me. Thank you so much for watching until the end. If you really like our videos, please don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Have a great day.